Well, hello, everyone. I think we're getting close to the happy hour, so we're going to try to make this fun, okay? Well, so I have a very exciting group of panelists here with me, and quite frankly, super happy to see some faces I haven't seen in quite a while. And ironically, I think that's part of the DNA of the conversation as well, because we're going to talk about how to advance, diversity in the workforce and success for Latinos in the workforce of the future. And it is impossible to talk about the future of America and the future of the workforce in America without talking about the contributions of the Hispanic population. We all saw it today. I mean, Roberto had some phenomenal statistics from the census. And to me, it is an unbelievable fact to think that 100% of the US population growth is being driven by diverse consumer segments, Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, and beyond. But of course, with Hispanics being a significant driving force of that. And to think that 1 out of every 5 people in the workforce today are Latino, it is an unbelievable stat. 1 out of every 5 people in the workforce today is Latino. And when you think about that statistic in the key DMAs like Miami, like Los Angeles, like New York, like Chicago, Houston, Dallas, that fact is even greater. So it is impossible to think about the future of the United States without thinking about the impact of Latino workforce and the importance of it. So with that said, I'm going to allow our panelists to say a quick words and hello. But what I really want to do is I want to start with hearing your personal stories. Tell us a little bit about your personal journeys and how you have personally succeeded in your own careers and as a Latino in the workforce. And also, have you seen others do it as well? So I'm going to start with, Jay. I know you come from the military, and that comes with a very unique set of experiences. And then we'll pass it around. So go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you. And coming from an immigrant family and raised here in Miami from Nicaragua, it was very interesting to join the Air Force after I graduated high school. But I had some things installed in me already from my family, from our values that helped me out throughout my Air Force career. I was a medical technician in the Air Force. Did everything from drawing blood, starting IVs, helping with cardiothoracic surgeries, and going through all of that and coming back out into the corporate world, which I was trying to kind of like be back into it, and not really finding a fit, because the military gives you the training, but you need a lot of certificates, you need a lot of paperwork in order to be able to be qualified to do some jobs. So I had some great experience leadership. I managed $2 million of budgets dealing when I was deployed to Kuwait with the Postal Service and dealing with all of that. And nobody, when I came out, saw that as a plus. Everybody saw, do you have this? Do you have this degree? Do you have this? I actually got my degree when I was at the age of 31. So I went throughout my whole Air Force career, never had a degree. Came out and I thought I was going to be a basketball coach. I love sports. And I played basketball and that was my thing. It's like, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to go. It's going to be easy. I'm going to get my physical education degree and I'm going to do it. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Even with somebody with my experience, it was hard to find a coaching job, a teacher job at that time. I went through different roles. I worked for Terminex. I did sales. I did security manager. I had my own handyman construction company that I was trying to lift off the ground. I'm trying to find where was I supposed to be. And then this nonprofit organization that I'm working with gave me the opportunity to facilitate and to be a health educator for one of their programs. And from there, they saw my experience, they saw my talents, they saw the gifts that I brought. And I took off. And now 7 years later, I am kind of like helping and leading as a CEO and serving our staff so they can serve the community. So that's a little background of where I am now and how, all of that just played along to where I am.
You know what, Jay, I'm going to link this back to what we heard Hector from Google say earlier. You just heard a story that was not a linear career story. It wasn't based on which college degree you had when you were 20 years old or 21 years old. Rather, it was based on your skill sets, based on opportunities, being open to those opportunities and people even to give you. So I think it's a very nice link to what we heard a little bit earlier from Hector. So Ili, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. Also, thank you for your service, Jay. Very appreciative. My story is different. I went into undergrad. Let me just take a step back. I was born to a single parent household. My mom has 2 kids. My dad has 10. Dominicano, ya tú sabes. And really, I had to, it was just my brother and I, my mom, and my mom was just living paycheck to paycheck. And she does have her associates, which she got when I was like 7 or 8 years old. So that's her max school level. My dad, I think, he finishes his high school 4 years and pretty much stopped there. And being raised in Queens, in New York, from New York, if anyone here is from New York, see, only one. Wait, I need a show of hands. New York. Okay, New York in the house. Okay. The grit and the hustle is real, right? And so where I grew up in a low income area, you had 2 different types of individuals. The people that use their surroundings as their excuse for not pushing ahead and not becoming more, right? Or you had the other folks that said, I don't want this for the rest of my life. I don't know how to do or what to do or where to go or who to talk to, but I don't want this. So I'm going to try everything I need to just get away from this. That was me. And I was the first one in my family to graduate college, first one to get my MBA, first one to live on my own, all the first. So no pressure, right? But I didn't have a roadmap. I just said, let me just do all the things I need to do to get far away. And so I kept pushing until I felt comfortable with the distance from the way I grew up to where I am now. And that's what really propelled me. My undergrad degree was first going to be in physical therapy. And then I was like, there's a lot of science. And I was like, yo no te pa esto. So I went to business and I found that I was really good in it. But for the last almost 20 years, I've spent my, not to date myself, do not calculate that. I spent my career in media sales or partnerships and ad tech. I currently work at LinkedIn as a senior manager across our ad tech partnerships globally. And I also lead our Hispanics of LinkedIn Alliance, ERG, across the globe as well, which has been wildly empowering to me as an individual and as an employee of the company. And we can get into other things later, but that's the snippet on me. Didn't come from the military, but definitely the hustle and the grit has been there from the beginning. And, being able to use your upbringing as your propeller, at least for me, was the driver in my success.
Okay, thank you, Ili. So, Jose, tell us about you.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Jose Salcedo, born and raised in Washington Heights, which is they call now Little DR. So, but my parents came to United States and definitely came to, look for a better living via food. And that's actually kind of stuck with me always in my life. But as a kid, I was always looking to help people. And I was like the guy that always help people with the LCDs, trying to get you internet service or found a way to hack, somehow your Windows 95 back then. But that actually led me to I became a young dad. So actually, that made me kind of change my life a bit. I dropped out of college and learned how to code and decided, to start to work for the city of New York at the time. And 9/11 happened. And actually, it was a 9/11 survivor that kind of really changed everyone's lives right after that. And I decided to follow more of my passions. And I got into the music business for a bit and working in the restaurant at the same time. So I worked at Sony, at Urban Box Office back then, was part of some successful projects. And then, of course, like everything, there was a big nosedive. And I got unemployed. And I actually ended up using my last unemployment check to say, you know what, F this. I'm going to start my own LLC. And decided to, launch my own company. And I started, helping people around the way, just with digital marketing, things like that. And I had a cousin of mine who was a local DJ around New York. He was, doing mixtapes back then and CDs. I was like, cuz, why are you still pressing CDs? People are like listening to MP3s and everything now. So I decided to build an app for him. He ended up working at La Mega and becoming the face of El Vecino de la Mañana in New York. And then from there, I actually was able to work with another big DJ in New York by the name of Master Flex. Together helped launch the first #1 app in the App Stores, music app in the App Stores by a DJ in 2013. So that was pretty awesome. And then from there, I was like, hey, look, it's cool to help other people, right? But I had a lot of big passion in like trying to build something to bring us Latinos together. And my family's always owned a lot of restaurants in New York. And I was like, hey, look, why are you guys always struggling with like, not being online and third-party companies and things like that? And so that led me to, launch my current startup, which is called Tryylo, which means bring it in Spanish, but we misspelled it like Google, just en vez de la O, la O y latina, right? So, we live in a world where, COVID really highlighted the inabilities for our people, our small businesses to really embrace technology, right? And so we depended even more the past couple of years. And so that has really helped us see a vision where we want to empower small business and Latinos, and that's part of our passion, part of what we do. And so that has led me to where I'm at today. And pretty soon you'll be able to order your favorite Latin restaurants off of Tryylo or your compras or whatever you need.
Great. And Ileana.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes. We are skipping the espresso at 3:30 and going straight to drinks. So thank you for sticking with us. Claudia, thank you for bringing us together for the really an important day and a conversation that I know we are all very passionate about. I will start by saying just, well, first of all, it's great to connect with all of the fellow panelists. One of the best things about these events is the way we get to collaborate and build our networks, which is always incredible. My journey, I work at Morgan Stanley currently. I head up international banking and lending. So I work in private wealth management. And the way to think about that is individuals that live outside of the US that want to manage their wealth in the US with a brand that they understand and know. And I have the privilege of leading a team of individuals that helps make that happen for families, their legacy, and the next generation, which is very inspiring. But my journey started as one that I immigrated to the US at the age of 3. I was born in Cuba. At the time, everybody, all of the families that left were exiled somewhere else around the world with the plan of returning to Cuba. That never materialized. My parents ended up having to split. And so I too was raised by a single mom. I met my father when I was 17, because that's when he was finally able to leave Cuba, unfortunately. But what I would say is my upbringing was very unique in that I observed a trailblazer in her own way that really instilled core values that shaped who I became all the way leading up to my graduate studies when I moved to New York City. And so first and foremost, work ethic. Clearly, I think there is a common thread here amongst many Latinos. The other one is education. I think whether it's, technical education or whatever it is, I think, many of our families really ground themselves, and there's a lot of pride in whatever you do, even if it's self-taught. This whole virtuous continuous learning really matters. Building your network. My mother did that brilliantly. For those of you that are the Gen Zers, you can probably relate to the yellow pages, but I remember how much she relied on that network for everything that she needed to do. And she would pick up the phone book and call anyone for anything. And that's how she made things happen. And so there was this resilience theme in our household with everything that we did. And then taking risks and asking, I would say, which is also really important, because as you build your network, you need to ask, and you need to lean in and take those risks. And that, when I moved to New York after graduate school, I was going to be a dancer. That's what I wanted to study. I was never going to get into finance. When I met my father, he was an entrepreneur at heart, started his business in the States at almost 60 years old. And so he really convinced me. He leaned in hard and said, why don't you major in finance and minor in dance? And so I owe my Wall Street career to him. And then he convinced me to pursue my MBA. And that's when I moved to New York. Didn't have a network, hadn't worked there before, but I knew how to grab the yellow pages and call a lot of recruiters. And so I landed my first job, and it's been an incredible 20-year career of different leadership roles that have really allowed me to build the teams, lead the teams, and create broader impact. And so now I think for many of our journeys, it's about how do we create broader impact within what we do every day and really outside of work. I have the opportunity to co-chair our Latino Employee Network. So we've been on a journey the last couple of years to really think strategically about how to unleash the power of Latinos. Because traditionally, we think about it in terms of a social network. I think about it every day in terms of a commercial opportunity. And that's really my role that I think we bring to the table, which is to amplify our voice, but ultimately unleash the power, because this is an economic play and everybody cares about dollars and cents.
I love that. You know, I think I want to highlight a few things. I think, you know, hard work, work ethic, resilience is a common thread across this room. And we're talking, you know, different ways and different paths from corporate America to the military, entrepreneurship and philanthropy, but work ethic. And I don't think anybody will debate whether Latinos have hard work ethic and hard work, but there is something that I hope we pick out of this. And it is the importance of building those yellow pages and working that network. So I wanna spend a little bit more time on the topic, because I don't necessarily know. You had the blessing, Ileana, to have seen it from your mom firsthand and seen the power of relying on that directory. So I want to expand a little bit further on that. So Ilya, I know we had a quick chat about something similar earlier. So can you talk a bit about how this power of networking and building the yellow pages and lifting each other up has been a part of your career, and what you think we should do even more to elevate the community forward?
Absolutely. So at LinkedIn, relationships matter. That's sort of ingrained in our culture, our DNA at the company. And your network is your net worth, right? Put that together. Your network.
Wait, say that again. Say it
your
slow.
network is your net worth. To Ileana's point, like you have to build a community, and you can't be, you know, I think a lot of folks are afraid to ask, or they're okay with where they're at because culturally we were raised to be happy with what we have, and you're good there, and you stay there and be grateful. And that's not it. It doesn't have to be that. And a lot of times you have to unlearn what we were taught, because it's been part of like our own limiting beliefs. And one of the things that I have found, and we were talking outside, is that with the Latino community, it's mind-boggling. But why don't we have this mentality on a global scale of lifting each other while we rise up? The mentality is like, we have to make it, and then yo la llamo. Like, what is that? Explícame, because if you look at the Black community, they lock arms and we in it together. You look at the Jewish community, do I have to say anymore? They lock arms and we in it together. You know, and I have a very difficult time understanding why in the Latino community there is this sense of competition. There's enough food for everybody. There's dollars and cents for everyone. Your grit and your hustle gotta match mine, right? Because I might get more than you, but it's there. And so I'm trying to figure out, you know, one of the reasons why I became the co-chair of our ERG is because I wanted that, right? I wanted for us to win together. Find ways to, yes, socialize, that's great. But how do we win together? How do we build together? How do we make money together and be each other's resource? Like, you don't have to be my competition. You could be my hermana, my hermano, and like, let's do this together. And so I'm trying to figure out, and I pose this question to everyone here, you know, are you doing enough for the next generation? Are you doing enough for the person next to you? Are you doing enough in your community to lift each other up? Just as other communities have done for decades and centuries that we have yet to do at scale. And that, to me, it really gets under my skin why we don't do more of that, right? That there's competition and cattiness, and it starts from young. I remember in high school and college, the same thing. And I'm like, my gosh, there doesn't have to be that. I want to help you. Help me help you. What do I need to do to help you? Every single one of my friends who are in my network know that I am there as a resource at all times, small or large. And that's what we should be for each other in this community in order to elevate ourselves. Yes. Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that as you rise, you should be lifting others with you, right? A $5 donation is better than zero. If everyone in this room donated $5, we'd be a couple $1,000 richer, right? As a university, if I was a UM. So it's that. It's like, why do we have to wait till we get to the top? Why don't we do it as we're climbing up and bring other people with us, is what I'm getting at. And I thank you for sharing that point, because it's exactly what I'm saying.
Quick shout out to John Moreno in the audience, who at a very early age decided to start a foundation to give scholarships to young Latinos in New York. We were able to give a few, but I want to give that as an example because we have to be beacons for that change. So when I hear your story and even John's story, the idea is we need to change cultural norms. And changing cultural norms, you were highlighting the fact that we might be shy to ask for the favor. We might be thought not necessarily to make the phone call. Well, we need to be examples for that. So I wanna maybe change it up a little bit and see if maybe, any of you guys can highlight a story where you weren't shy and you actually went for it and you made a phone call and at some point in your career. Can any of you guys think and give a practical story? Whether you made the phone call or somebody surprised you, calling you.
Sure. I want to go back to the earlier point because I always love a healthy debate. There's other things in play here and the research supports it. I think for many Latinos coming to another country as many immigrants, your priority number one is to assimilate. Like I actually, my situation was quite unique because my mother was a rebel in that regard. I was, with friends that didn't speak the language, tried to, dress the part. You were just trying to become part of this new society and this new country that you were part of. And that's very real. I think now being Latino is in, but many years ago it wasn't. And so if you lived in parts of the United States of America where you didn't see a lot of people like you, your priority number one was to fit in, to be able to get the job, take care of your family. And so that is embedded. We're into now second, third, fourth generation, but that's very real. So that impacts our behavior, right? That's point number one. Number two, I think, when we think of family, for us, it's not the nuclear family, it's the extended family, right? I think, when I was in the US, I've been taking care of my family in Cuba for over 30 years. So when I think of giving back, I have a very different mindset that other Latinos that have been focused on giving to their extended family. So I think there's this definition of how you give back, and you're giving back to your village, which takes a lot of sweat and equity and finances. But I completely agree on the point of philanthropy, which is a big one on education. We need to educate to do more because collectively we can really carry the torch and have broader impact, which comes back to my first point. The name of the game is to create broader impact. It's to get more Latinos to positions of power who are going to pave new roads, right? And give access and be more inclusive and give us all the things that we know we're capable of delivering, but in scale, right? So I do have, the whole notion of asking is really important and leveraging the network. But the first thing you need to do is build a powerful network, right? And I think traditionally, we love networks of people that look like us, that think like us. And before you know it, it's a very homogeneous network. So the first thing I would challenge all of us to think about is who is in your network. Draw, I always say a dining room table above you, at your level, below you. Who are all the people that you're helping pull up, that you're collaborating with, that you are trying to build mentorship relationships to eventually have sponsors, right? But who are those people, and are they diverse enough to really help you and stretch you and get you out of your comfort zone? As you build that network, then it becomes easier to ask because you have a trusted relationship to ask for the introduction, et cetera. My last three roles are roles that didn't exist. And so I did make the call. And it was, you second guess, do I make the call? How am I going to make the ask? How are they going to view? And you start to sort of get into your own head and have conversations with yourself that are not productive. But at the end of the day, being a risk taker, you go for it. And so knowing how to ask is really important. We don't have enough time to get into this, but knowing how to position the ask strategically and the value that you bring to the table for what others are trying to solve is the way to do it. It's not about getting that next bigger job, but how are you going to help solve for what the challenges are in the position? And that's how I got my last role. I made the call And I then got a call afterwards saying, you know, I admire you for making that call, because they weren't thinking about it the way that I was thinking about it. And that was the third time throughout my career. In a previous firm, I did the same thing. They approached me about a job. They said, we think you'd be great for this. And, you know, I talked to a lot of people and I said, well, this is actually what I think I can do and the way I think I should play, that I don't think you guys are thinking about it. Sit on it and let's reconnect. And so that's how the whole thing came to be. But the network that we build, the way we have the conversation and the way we put the ask out is really important.
Love that.
Can I add to that
Yeah,
for
go
just 1 second? I think, and this is very quick, but we have to know the difference between the story that we've told ourselves in our mind and the reality of it. And that was Ileana not paying attention to the story, but really looking at the reality of the value she could bring to the organization and the role, which is what allowed her to kind of push that boundary. So it's a constant reminder for myself as well, but knowing the difference between reality and a story that you've made up that is hindering you from taking that leap.
And that's where your network helps you.
Yeah.
They tell you, if you have the right network, they were not going to sugarcoat it. They're going to give you the feedback that you need. They're going to help you prepare and help you build the confidence to lean in.
Jay, I wanna ask you about something you mentioned earlier, and the fact that you mentioned opportunity was given to you, and it must be the military in you, but I sense a sense of gratitude for the people that have been in your journey, that have believed in you when your resume wasn't a perfect fit, where the degree wasn't a perfect fit. So I want you to expand and tell the room a little bit about some of these people that have been door openers for you, and what that has meant for your career.
Well, I think one of the most important things, because even as leaders, we all hearing the great things, and when somebody asks, because I did the ask, but it's also understanding that when somebody asks, you got to look at the pluses, but then you're going to look at the vulnerabilities as well and accept those vulnerabilities and say, how can I help this person? And I think that's important for us, because we think about the future and we think about everything as technology comes up, and it's like, oh, they need to be great with technology and digital and everything. But the fact of the matter is that human interaction still needs to happen. You still need to have those soft skills. Like I said, going into this nonprofit world, like nothing that I ever been to school for. Basketball didn't teach me that. The Air Force didn't teach me that. And all my other jobs did not teach me that. So it was something brand new to me. But just the passion of being able to give back. And I think that's what gravitated those individuals that gave me the opportunity. And I'm thinking more kind of like with Hope for Miami, the CEO and the founder, you know, that I moved through different positions. And it's not because I kept on asking. A lot of us, because I kept on showing. They kept on seeing what I can do. And they were like, you know what? He has a lot of time in his hand. Let's give him something else. Let's give him something else. And I like to say around the office, I walk around with janitor keys. I got keys for everything. Like I'm the person that does everything, open up the doors, check the mail, especially through COVID. It was like, I was the one doing all of that. And it's that type of mentality that they saw in me. So whenever they gave me the opportunity, to me, I just kind of like busted through the door and I was like, I'm here. I'm gonna do what I can. And it's just that, not forgetting that as humans, we need to continue to communicate with each other and look past that paper, look past what we're asking for them and look more what they actually bring. And it starts off from the interviews. And even once they get through the door, professional growth is important. Giving programs, putting things in place. I put a lead program that we do sessions every month for our middle management to help them grow, empower them. Because the more they can do, the less we have to do, and the more that we can do on the organization. So I like to see it as a way that I'm not working in the organization anymore. I'm working on the organization, so I can see from a different view and remove those obstacles that is going to make it harder for them. And I think that's what we can do as leaders and entrepreneurs and corporate America, is look past that.
Thank you. Jose, I'm gonna ask you a little bit about the service industry. We know how important Latinos are for the full service industry. I mean, talking about first line responders when, you know, in the middle of the pandemic, you know, the food industry, everywhere from like the farm workers all the way to every single restaurant in New York City, you know, and the delivery and everything in between in the supply chain, we are a critical piece of the food service industry. And the pandemic has had a massive disproportionate impact in our community. So I want you to speak a little bit about what you see the future is for the industry, and of course the role of technology in trying to move the Latino community forward and everybody that works in that supply chain of the food and service industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point earlier, actually 1 out of every 4 chefs in America is Latino also. So you know, and we remember when Latinos decided to not show up to restaurants, right? One day, how it impacted the whole industry. So through COVID, it's been highlighted even more. Many businesses, in order to even stay open, to feed us, everyone in this room, they've had to, you know, turn to technology, right? So as we're shifting into the need more for technology, they've been looking to find ways to not only save and on a lot of fees that has been like dreading the industry, but also figuring out different ways to create virtual kitchens and getting into new ways to get out there and expand their business, because it allows them to grow. But beyond that, we're also noticing that, you know, people are starting to even do Uber Eats now, right? And like just, you know, figure out, hey, look, in order to stay afloat, people are taking on gig economy jobs, right? And so what has happened is that has created an influx of some supply side for delivery, and has allowed companies like the DoorDashes of the world to now provide delivery service to restaurants, but not having to pay the 30%. And that's some of the things that we've been working on to figure out, hey, look, someone needs to sit in the middle and say, hey, look, our people are a strong part of what your business is, but we're not even identified as a consumer or just as a merchant. And so there needs to be a way to bridge over those communications and help empower our small businesses with the tools they need to grow their business, not necessarily to hamper it. And at the end of the day, you know, many of the platforms see it as a data play, right? So how can small businesses stay afloat by you know, owning their customer? And I don't mean by owning like, you know, like as a possession, but that relationship, right? Because you know, when you walk in to Versailles in the morning, they already know you want that cortadito, right? Like they already know you by your first name and things like that. And so that loyalty, customer loyalty, it's a special relationship that not only merchants have with customers, and the third-party platforms don't really necessarily harness that. And so what we want to do is best highlight those small businesses who are doing the hard things that it takes to really accomplish that.
Great. So being conscious that we're getting in the way of the happy hour soon enough, I want to just go a quick roundabout and ask everybody to talk about the call to action, right? So if we want to leave a message with the audience and everybody here to go back with, what do you think are some of those call to actions that we should have, you know, not just for each other as individuals, but also the role that we play in the corporations and the businesses that we influence in their community? So I would love to hear, you know, one idea from each of you guys. So go ahead. Who wants to go first?
I feel like I shared this before, but 2 things. One, as you're rising up, lift up. And the second is, you know, going on the heels of what Ileana said earlier on what can you do to unlearn some of the limiting beliefs that we all grew up with, and sort of envision what could be if you change one thing, or you push past one thing that has been stopping you, and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I'm only saying this because I myself, along with several people in my network, have also faced the same. So I challenge you to do more of that, because it'll help elevate you and therefore help to pave the way for others after.
My call to action is one of the things that I love is, you know, look at your why and teach others how to look at their why as well. You know, their mission and their vision for their careers and where they want to be at, to see if it aligns where they need to be at. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as leaders, owners, and entrepreneurs, is look at the individuals that we have with us to make sure they're in the right place. And I think a lot of people say this, the right seat on the bus, the right bus, and put them there in those places. So just look at your why and teach others how to look at their why as well, so they can, you know, prosper as well.
Yeah, I guess my call to action is definitely, you know, and now as we're getting into Hispanic Heritage Month, definitely unidos jamás seremos vencidos, ¿verdad? That term, right? And to jump on that, if you think about it, there's not enough Latino startups that are being invested in right now, and especially if you're a startup that you're looking to bring together the community, not only small businesses, people who are out there grinding and creating a platform, but I feel as a marketplace or as a startup or a platform, if you're figuring out ways to unite Latinos, right, and help and give back to the community, I think that answers the call, because we're focused on not only supporting corporate America, small business, but also everyone the día a día. And so I think unidos jamás seremos vencidos. So I definitely together, let's support each other and the businesses who are out there to bring us to life.
Leverage your Latinidad, because with being a Latino, which we're all incredibly proud, comes immense responsibility. And I would say now is our time, like never before, to go out there and own our voice. And as we get seats at the table, to think strategically about how we can drive broader change. For many of us, at a certain point in our careers, it was about the first job. It was about the first paycheck. As we evolve, again, it's all about broader impact. And each of us never underestimate the power of one individual making a decision to create broader impact for someone else and for our community. Thank you.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody, and I'll see you guys at the happy hour.